And let's bring in our panel to talk about this and also the new numbers on inflation impacting Americans. Joining us right now, former House Communications Director Luke Ball. He worked on Trump's 2024 campaign, advising multiple congressional and gubernatorial political candidates. He's also the CEO of Compass Strategies. And senior advisor for both the Trump and Bush administrations, Christian Wyden. He is a senior fellow at the Center for the National Interest, a Newsmax contributor as well, and certified financial planner Doug Flynn joining us today, partner and co-founder of Flynn Zito Capital Management. Guys, good to have you. Of course, President Trump had a lot to say in the Oval Office, but let's start with Iran. He says Iran will be attacked today, that he gave them a break, but that they are playing us. I'll start with you, Christian, because we've talked about this, that every day it seems like a deal is imminent, and that messaging just is falling flat now, especially after the dust-up we saw on Sunday and now the Apache helicopter. So where do we go from here?
Right, Bianca, I think that framing is right. We've had a lot of mixed messaging. And if you look at the presidency, it has all these awesome powers, but ultimately a rhetorical office, meaning your words have to mean something. Now, the president said we were going to hit them eventually, and finally we have. U.S. Central Command said it was going to be a proportional response, meaning it wasn't going to be a big one in response to that attack on a U.S. Apache helicopter. Last night, the president tweeted a scene from the old West Wing, the Left Wing sitcom, that actually deprecated the idea of a proportional response, indicating you should actually climb the ladder of escalation to prove a point. But we haven't done that. We haven't really gone after. We haven't put a blue carpet over the Strait of Hormuz to take out everything that can impair navigation. And we haven't started to take down Iran's energy infrastructure, which would seem to be a logical next step. So the president seems to be willing to give them more time, but runs the risks of looking non-credible.
All right. Well, he had some choice words for the Maine new senator when he talked about credibility, and you talk about the Democrats. A lot of what he was saying, too, is going backwards, looking at the open borders, what led us here, what the crime. So a lot of positive messaging, Luke, outside of Iran. But Iran obviously is the driver now of the daily news. Strait of Hormuz, closed markets. We're going to get to inflation in just a minute with Doug. But what do you make of what Christian just said? Pick up on that, because obviously not having a nuclear weapon is all fine and good, but can we really trust the Iranians as they continue to fight back and even vow today, Aragachi saying no attack or threat will be unanswered, telling the United States to leave the region if you want to be safe?
Yeah, I always preface my remarks on the war in Iran or the conflict in Iran with I have the best job in politics and government. I can be armchair general and just give observations on what I see in the news. I don't have the benefit of knowledge that the president and the Joint Chiefs of Staff and all of his military advisors may have. I can look at it from the political angle and say that I think the president in his remarks in the Oval Office is uniquely cognizant of the fact that gas prices and oil prices and the economy are going to be driving factors for Democrat messaging heading into the midterm elections, and that the war in Iran is directly connected to whether or not the American people feel as if the economy is doing well. That's pretty obvious for all observers of American politics, and the president knows that. Every time that we have a conflict pop up throughout this war, like the Apache helicopter going down, or maybe a broken ceasefire in the Middle East, it could drag us further and further into a prolonged war. It's why you don't have quick wars in the Middle East. They're always protracted. We talk about forever wars and sending our sons and daughters overseas to fight in forever wars is something we want to avoid. So I think the president understands that we have to show strength, but at some point we also have to draw back as we get to the midterms, because otherwise I don't think the American people are going to be very receptive to the way the economy is going.
Yeah, well, it's going to be obviously a very difficult line, because he does not want, obviously, a bad deal like the JCPOA. He says they've dealt Iran with some stupid presidents. He says, I'm embarrassed to say it, some stupid people were sitting here. Pick up on that, Doug. President Trump obviously knows the midterms. He understands his candidates that he's endorsing are having great success, but the economy is on everyone's mind, Doug. Consumer price index rising, pushing inflation up 4.2%, the highest level in roughly 3 years. Now, obviously, there are parts of the economy that are strong, and those are things that the administration will point to, but the parts that aren't seem to be pretty glaring. How concerned should consumers be, in your expert advice?
It depends on if we can keep oil prices where they are. I mean, the problem here is that we were at 2.4% year-over-year inflation right before the war, and now it's flipped to 4.2. That is a big move. I will say, though, that that's the headline number. What the Fed looks at and economists look at is the core inflation number, and that is, there's a reason they call it the core, because they strip out both food and energy. And energy's been the real driver as to these inflation numbers. And if that continues, of course, that will feed into these other areas that people feel. But if you strip that out and you look at the core number, it's only at 2.9%. Now, I say only, but below 3% is a good number there. And so that was lower than expected.
Yeah.
And I think that's the focus point. And it basically, if you can keep oil prices in the high 80s per barrel, you're going to see the gas prices dip back below $4 a gallon, because we're about $4.15. We're about 40 cents off the high from a couple weeks ago. So if we just stay where we are in oil prices, you're going to see that gas prices tick down over the next couple of weeks to below $4. And I think they need to see that.
All right, some good logic there and numbers, a little bit calming. Doug Flynn, great to have you with us for that aspect. Christian Whiten, Luke Ball, thank you, gentlemen. Good to have you all with us today as we watch things develop in the Middle East. Appreciate your comments.